Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Ellechat on financially preparing to take your business full-time. We're doing something a little different for those of you who have been in on one of our Elechats before. We aren't running through Google Hangouts today. We are actually running live, so there's no 30-minute lag. So I would love to know in the comments if you can hear me and see me okay. I know that this is a new system, so I'd love to know that. Awesome. Kathy says she can hear me. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Awesome. So we have a great group of you tuning in today and tuning in from all over the globe. So this is really neat. I know that Penelope even said she was joining in from Manila and that it is 3 a.m. there. So that is commitment. But this is a really great topic today. I know finances can be the trickiest thing about going full time. And so I'm really, really excited to see or to have Shannah Game joining me today. She is a financial guru. I am not. And so I'm really excited to have her on and have profiles. Oh, sorry. Getting distracted by the comments, y'all. That's my fault, guys. Sorry about that. Again, this is brand new to me. So awesome. I'm back. So I'm really excited to have her on sharing her wisdom with us. I think this is going to be an invaluable webinar. But before we get started, I just wanted to show you around and introduce you to the Crowdcast window. So right below the screen, you should see a questions and topics section. And there is where you can ask questions throughout this Ellechat. I see that many of you have already started joining in with questions. Another awesome Crowdcast feature is that you can vote up questions. So if you really want to see one answered, go ahead and vote it up. And at the end, we'll leave about 15 to 20 minutes at the end of this Ellechat to answer your questions. Shannah will help answer your questions. So be sure to do that. And then if you haven't already, go ahead in the comment section and say hello and tell everyone where you're tuning in from today. That would be great. But in this week's newsletter, I told you all a little bit about how when I was getting started, I was very naive and also a little stubborn with money. I wanted to go freelance. I wanted to freelance full-time so badly that I didn't do my homework. And instead, I thought, I'm just going to make it work. The money will come if I try hard enough. I'm just going to make it work. And I didn't do my homework, and I didn't do what was necessary on my part, and I failed miserably. So I wish I had something like this webinar or this resource, someone like Shannah to tell me what I needed to be doing to get started off on the right foot. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Shannah on. And like I said, bear with me just a second. This is brand new to me. I can actually invite any of you on the screen, which is kind of crazy and really helpful during the question and answer section too. And there are so many of you tuning in today. So let me find Shannah really quickly. Awesome. South Carolina, Washington. Good to see you all tuning in today. So many of you tuning in today. Let's find Shannah. Thanks for bearing with me, y'all. Oh man, there are so many people tuning in. This is awesome, but also crazy. All right, hi from Chicago. Good to see y'all. Shannah, where'd you go? Before with Hangouts, I could invite people on as soon as it started. This is a little different. There you are. Okay, inviting on the screen. Oh, wait a second. Allow her to come on. Awesome. I know it can take a second. Thanks, y'all, for bearing with us. And thank you, Tracy, for saying I'm doing great. This is what's crazy about live videos, that you really, awesome. She's connecting. There she is. Hi, Shannah. How are you?
Good, and yourself?
Good. Sorry it took me a moment, but we're here.
Yay,
And
we made it. We made technology work.
Yes, it can always be a gamble. But thank you for tuning in today. I'm really excited to have you on talking about financially planning to take your business full time. So if you could, for those who might not be familiar with you, how did you get to where you are right now? Tell a little bit about your story.
That's a long twisty road, as it is for most people. But I started my first business when I was 19 in college. Actually, it was a nonprofit, and I knew absolutely nothing about running a business except I had an idea. And so at 19, you're fearless and you just kind of jump in and do it. So it was great. It was myself and two other college students. And, we were managing a budget of about $250,000 to $500,000 a year. And so, I really had to become a ninja with budgeting. I had to be super resourceful with my money. And I think that's really where I learned pretty much everything that I know now. Now I have an MBA and I'm what's called a certified financial planner. And what that basically means is I've had to become like a ninja in all things finance. There's only 60,000 of us in the whole US. And of those under 40, it's like 0.02% that are actually females.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a really cool place to be. And obviously I have the company that I ran was an entertainment-based company. So I have this, creative side to me. And, I have a really hard passion for entrepreneurs because I've been one my whole entire life. I joke with people that I think I even was born an entrepreneur. It was always coming up with these crazy ideas to make money and really think outside of the box. And I think that's what's so cool about entrepreneurs and especially about women is we just look at things a little bit differently. But, being an entrepreneur, running your own business, it makes the money stuff really tough. And so, I think this is awesome what you're doing. This is such a great, tandem piece to the resources that you offer. And, this is really where my passion is to help take the fear out of money for people, to help them feel really empowered that it doesn't matter what mistakes you might have made in the past. If you might have started your business before you should have, or maybe you have some expenses that you shouldn't have spent your money, it doesn't matter. It's all about going forward and making smart money moves and it really, empowering yourself to master your money. And so that's really what I'm passionate about and why I love, talking about this subject that, for most people is really tough to talk about.
Oh yeah. It's like the not talked about subject at all.
Yeah, I often joke it's not like the dinner time conversation. So you're not going to go over to your friends and be like, so, are you over budget this month or where are you at? But it should be a topic that we're all okay to talk about because what happens is we don't talk about it and then everyone thinks they're so different from each other and they're really not. Everybody shares kind of the same things.
Yeah. And because it is the biggest hesitation for so many people to go full-time or pursue their businesses, they feel like they may not have the finances in order. They really don't know how much money they need to be bringing in. So there's all of these questions, but really no one out there to answer it in this realm. And then there's you. So I'm really excited to have you on today, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I know everyone tuning in does too. So I'm just going to start off with expenses because I feel like part of finances, and correct me if I'm wrong, and especially when you're first starting out, is cutting back, just cutting back on your expenses so you have less to pay for. Am I right?
Exactly. Yes.
So what are your thoughts on expenses and where you can start cutting back in budgeting?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, I always tell people it doesn't matter how much money you make. You can make $25,000, you can make $25 million. It doesn't matter. What matters is how much of your income you're actually spending, right? So the object is to have, your income be larger than your expenses. But for most people, that's topsy-turvy. For most of us, we are over budget. We're constantly going into overdraft, whatever it may be. And especially as business owners, especially starting out, that's really the case. But I think if we're talking about, kind of the personal budget side, the common offenders that I see all the time are eating out. That's a huge expense. And most people say oh, I think I spend, $100 a month eating out. And in reality, when you actually look at the numbers, maybe 300, 400. And so right there, it's okay, if we could just get, a goal or some sort of strategy around that spending, suddenly you have a lot more money. So that's definitely one. Entertainment is another one. We go to movies, we go on coffee dates, we go, all sorts of different things, and that adds up. And right now what we're seeing is, subscriptions, right? So everything now is subscription. We have Hulu, we have Netflix, we have iTunes, we have Amazon. We just like push a button and suddenly we've bought something. And because we're using our device, we don't feel like we're actually paying for it. But, we are. And so that ends up coming out each month. And there's lots of other silly things. Like sometimes people have a habit of going to ATMs where they're not in network. And maybe they don't have the best bank. And so they're spending a ton of money on ATM fees. So there's all of these, I call them little like hidden opportunities that are in everybody's bank account. And I tell everyone, no matter what money goal you're trying to achieve, look at your bank account because it's hidden there. You can achieve it. You just have to find it.
Yeah, and make some sacrifices. I know for Jake and I, we downgraded our phone plan, and there were some nights we ate ramen just to cut back on expenses, because we knew that if I wanted to pursue it full time, that at first things are going to be really tight. So try to look at where we could cut back. And I could totally cut back on Starbucks and eating out too. So I know some of you have said that in the comments.
And another thing too that I always tell people about is, everybody tries to tell you, don't use a credit card. And I'm going to tell you the opposite. And there are a lot of money people that would probably slap me. But, if you use your credit card smartly, if you use it like a debit card where you pay it off at the end of the month, especially as a business owner, but you have the right credit card where you're racking up points, you're racking up cash back, whatever it may be for yourself, that is worth value to you, especially as a startup business owner. You could use those points like to buy, gifts for your clients, or, leverage them into travel if you need to go visit clients or whatever it may be. And so, as a business owner, especially a startup, I just want you to think smartly about how you're spending your money and, look at everything a little bit differently that way.
That's really great advice. We have a friend, a little secret about him that we found out recently, that he's so into credit cards and points. And so we need to sit down with him. I need to sit down with you and figure out what it looks like too, because I think and I'm in that camp where credit cards are scary, like off limits, but if you're paying them off, it can be really helpful. So That's really good advice. I love that. Also, I'm curious to hear from your perspective, because I'm sure you get this all the time, but what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make financially, especially for business owners in particular?
That's great. Gosh, there's so many different things. When I was making notes for this question, I was like, oh my gosh, I could go on and on. And they're not necessarily, mistakes. But one of them is, I tell people you have to know your numbers. And what I mean by that is, most people teach you how to budget one way, where you create a budget, you list all of your expenses, you go through the month. At the end of the month, you're supposed to have, I don't know, let's say $100 left at the end of the month. You don't, you get depressed, and then you just wash and repeat the same thing over and over again. But what I teach people, and especially business owners, is the power is in creating a second column on your budget. So I call it the what I spent column. And it's the actual reality of what went on in that month. And, there's so many amazing apps now that will do this for you, that will calculate things for you. They make doing taxes a dream, because all you have to do is print out a sheet that has all of your category spending. But what you do is, your bank account doesn't lie. It has the honest truth. And if you categorize all your expenses and put them into a second column of your budget, then you have, the reality of what happened in that month, and you can start to make changes in your budget. And, that's the part that most people don't like to do. They don't like to know how much they're spending on things, but it is so critical personally, but it's ultra critical when you're starting a business, even when you're a seasoned business owner, to know what you're spending your money on.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Cut in.
Yes.
You said there are really great resources for tracking. What are some of the ones that you would recommend?
There's a couple of great apps that I love. One is called YNAB, You Need a Budget, and they have a desktop version and an app version. So you could take, when you're out, you could take a picture of the receipt and automatically categorize it. So it makes life really easy. There's another one called Wally, which is a free app, and it's more basic, but what I love about it is it breaks up your category spending into daily amounts. So each day you can tell, where you're at with your budget, and, it'll just help you to stay kind of within the boundary lines. For accounting software, things like that, I love FreshBooks. They're super easy. I can categorize all my business expenses. They have an app as well. It just makes life so much easier. But, technology is so great now that, there really are no excuses, especially as a business owner, not to be organized. You just have to train yourself, to hit a few buttons. But like I said, it makes all of those make tax time just a breeze for you and for the accountant.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know some people are saying Mint and YNAB.
Yeah, you need a budget. Yeah.
You need a budget. That's what it was. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
And I think I skipped over, common, this is what I wanted to ask. What about people who've made the leap before they should have? And we're going to get into how much you should be making before you make the leap. But what about the people like myself who may have already made the leap and now they're thinking, oh no, I'm not bringing enough money?
Yeah, I think, the first thing is really managing your budget. So getting in there, really understanding your expenses, really understand what you're spending your money on. Dive into your expenses, get as lean as possible. So what I recommend is someone, even if you've, already jumped into your business, or if you're starting a startup, know how much it takes for you just to keep the lights on every month. So what is that number, without, using Uber and Starbucks and things like that, but, what do you need to pay your car payment, your minimum payment on your credit cards, your rent or your mortgage, all those things that you have to pay. Find out that number, because from there we can work backwards. We can then figure out, how much do you need to price your product or service? How many clients do you need a month? All those sorts of things. And you can really start to create a plan around that versus just kind of, shooting in the dark. And also, be willing to go to a plan B. If your plan A is to run this business and you've got a great idea, great. Don't let that go, right? But be willing, be flexible. Maybe you need to take, a part-time job or, something on the side just to supplement your income enough until you get your plan really streamlined and in working for you. So, don't feel like you're giving up on something, but be flexible. And I can't tell you, being an entrepreneur, as long as I've had to be ultra flexible a lot. And I think that's really helped me both business wise, but also for my budget.
Yeah, I love that you say a plan B. A plan A, but also a plan B.
Right.
We don't always want to hear the plan B. We don't always want to go that route. I know I didn't, but that is so important.
And also just not to panic. I think that especially as women, because we're so emotional, we get to the place where we just panic and we start derailing everything in our head. And, it's at those moments you just like take a deep breath. It's all going to be okay. And again, it doesn't mean you have to give up on anything. It just means, you might have to take a little different route to get to where you need to go.
Right. And rearrange things a little bit.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So I know too, especially with small businesses, there's a lot of overlap between personal budget and business budget. So is there anything on the personal budget side that you can do to prepare to make the leap beforehand, before going full time?
Yeah, again, just reiterating, get lean, know how much it takes for you to just live, really understand what that number is. Another thing is just have an emergency fund in place. And if you don't have an emergency fund, it's okay. Start with something, start with some commitment each month, whether it's, $25 you can save, whatever that amount is, just start saving. But, I really, if you're not running your own business, I suggest you have like 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses saved. Now, if you're running your own business, I like to say 6 to 12 months, because let's face it, there are months where we launch a product and it doesn't work. Things happen. We have expenses come up, all sorts of things. And so it helps to have a padding there. And also just to think about your savings a little bit differently. So a lot of people have savings in a traditional bank account, and those are earning I just saw the average was 0.08%. That's pretty close to zero.
Yeah.
So you're actually paying them to hold your money. So I'm a big fan of something called high yield savings accounts. You may have heard the Ally Bank, Capital One 360, Synchrony. There are a ton of banks out there that have these. And, they're offering interest rates closer to 1%. And why that's not, a ton of extra money, but I always tell people extra money is extra money. And as a business owner, all of that starts to really add up over time. So just think about, your finances a little bit differently. And also commit to being in your budget weekly, your personal budget and your business budget. And I like to say, set yourself a money date and make this fun. Don't make money be this, horrible thing you have to do, but, get a glass of wine and put on some music or whatever makes you happy, but commit calendar each week, at least 15 minutes to just look over your spending, look over your goals, look over what's coming up, and get an action plan in place. It's really going to help you kind of stay on track with everything you're trying to achieve.
I found myself doing that in Asana. I can have recurring tasks. So it comes up every week. Go through QuickBooks, approve everything, just look things over. It makes it
so much easier because then, if you wait till the end of the month, then it's oh my gosh, I got, all this to do and I'm stressed out. And, if you just do things, I always say small steps lead to big changes. So if you just make these little tiny steps, it's going to make everything be less overwhelming, which is really awesome as a business owner.
Yes. And I have a tendency to wait on those things because I don't enjoy them. And then it's a lot of work as opposed to just little bits of time here and there.
Exactly.
So that's a great.
And also, I just say, I can't say this enough, but, really embrace the chaos, embrace the unpredictability. I mean, this is never going to go away. And I think, as business owners, and I've found myself saying this sometimes too, where I'm oh, I just wish things would be calm, or I just wish, I wouldn't work 7 days a week or whatever it may be. But that's just the reality of being in business for yourself. Is there's going to be chaos. There's going to be ebb and flow. There's going to be that with money. There's going to be times where you're super flush and times where you're not. And so, to just kind of take some of that pressure off of yourself and just embrace, what's going on.
Yeah, I love that you say that too, because when I was first starting out and I was overwhelmed by all of the hats that I had to wear and all these tasks that I wasn't familiar with or comfortable with, but that were necessary, like budgeting and finances. And I said the same thing. I can't wait until things just level out. Right. And my husband was like, the moment that things start to level out is when your business starts to die. That should scare you.
Right, exactly.
I was like, okay, anytime things get crazy, which is a lot of the time, I just have to sit back and go, this is a good thing. Because if it wasn't, I'd be in trouble.
Yeah. So. And, that actually leads into another great point is, I always tell people, look, you need a team. So many of us are in business by ourselves, right? We're bloggers or we have product, and online service-based businesses or whatever it may be. But we really need a team. We need someone like yourself that's really helping us build our business. Somebody like me who's helping, on the money side, maybe a CPA or an attorney, depending on what type your business is. But you need people there that are going to help you succeed, that you can bounce ideas off of, all of those sorts of things. It's really so important that you don't get isolated and also that you're not afraid to reach out. I just worked with a business owner last week and she said, oh, I really should have called you 6 months ago. And she said, but, my ego got in the way. And so, I always tell people you're an expert in what you do. You're an expert in your product or your service or whatever you're doing, but let other people be the experts in what they're doing and partner up with you.
Right. And for the really important things like finances and legal stuff, it's just so helpful. And there's so much peace of mind that comes from asking for help from the right people. So I brought on a CPA and a lawyer this past year, and they were expenses, but there was so much peace of mind and I knew I was covered and I still run to them with questions, and it's so helpful.
Exactly. Yep. Very important.
So here's the big question, and I know we're probably going to spend some time unpacking this more, but when do you know that you're ready to make the leap? Or do you ever know that you're ready to make the leap?
Yeah, my answer is one that probably most people won't want to hear, but honestly, you never know. Sometimes you have to make the leap just on faith alone, just on, I have this gut feeling that whatever I'm offering is really needed out there, that it's going to resonate with my particular niche. Or just, this is, I can't go on without seeing this business idea through. So a lot of times I tell people that sometimes you just got to make that leap, and you don't know how it's all going to work out. If I would have waited to start the businesses that I've started, I would probably still be waiting, but I had to just, put my foot forward and keep going. And some of it didn't work. And that's going to be the story for everybody. I think we don't like to share that, but so much of what we do as entrepreneurs is we fail a ton of times before we get to the thing that actually works. And that's the same with your finances. You're going to spend money on some things, and then you're later going to go, that didn't work out. And, I can't get that money back. And that's okay. That's just part of the process. Again, if you really know your numbers, if you really know what it takes for you to live each month, that makes it a lot easier when you're starting out to figure out, okay, what is the gap that I'm trying to fill, and minimally, what do I need from clients, or, how many sales do I need to make? What do I need to do just to fill that gap? I'm not talking about, yachting off to San Tropez or whatever, but what is kind of that minimum amount? And that really helps you gauge whether, can I make this work? Do I think this is feasible, or is this really going to be a stretch? And that's going to be different for every single person. Another thing is just, and I'm sure you give this advice too, is to test out your product and service before you make the leap, and not just with your friends and family. Try to get some people in there, if you have to give away free stuff, whatever you need to do to just get some sort of testimonials, some sort of feedback, so that you can, get your product or service honed as much as possible before you actually make the leap. So, there's a lot of times where people will come to me and they want to quit their full-time job. They want to make this business successful. And I'll say, okay, let's see if we can get your business to, I don't know, 2,000 a month or 5,000 a month or whatever that number is right now. Then at least we have some sort of security in knowing, like, okay, if we can keep it growing, we're going to far outpace your salary. Not everybody has that luxury, but, that's something to just think about while you do have, a full-time salary, is can you also build on the side and at least get it to a point where it's a safer kind of jump off point?
Yeah, and I think and this is what I've been talking about the past few weeks as I was launching the Freelance Academy course, and talking about going full-time, and how I was able to do it once I started getting smarter about it, was booking clients in advance. So having your services and being able to say, I can take on this many clients, booking spots in your calendar for them, and then the money is coming in. So it's a little bit easier to make the leap because I'm getting paid on this date. This is when I'll be done with the project. Just creating more consistency, because for a lot of us, like you said, clients will vary from month to month, or you might be working on a product, or it just fluctuates so much, your income does. And another thing that I think everyone's situation is very different. So, and we talked about this before we jumped on, that so many people's circumstances are different. So questions about money are hard because they're so specific. General questions are hard because answers need to be more specific. But for our season of life, my husband and I had lived in a mother-in-law suite. So for me, it was a really great opportunity to capitalize on no rent payment for a season. I knew that our expenses were going to be lower, and so I had the opportunity to go full-time. I think
that's great. If you're in a situation like that, and you can really maximize that time to really launch, then you're in a great position.
Yeah. So it goes along with capitalizing on the season of life that you're in, but also making cutbacks, because that mother-in-law suite was not easy to live in for a year and a half, but we made it work. So yeah, but I think that's great advice. And also with all the things that you just said about cutting back on expenses and making sure you know your numbers and setting aside an emergency fund, it's all providing, like you said, that cushion, so that when you do, you have to have faith to make that leap. But when you do make it, you're setting yourself up for success.
Yep.
Are there any other things, like we talked about an emergency fund, but any other practices that you suggest as taking precautions?
Yeah, this is something that most people kind of overlook, but really I would say, 80 to 85% of personal finance is psychological. And most people really, they just sort of blow past that. And so what I often do is suggest to business owners, take some time and do a practice that I call financial forgiveness. And this is really where you just kind of stream of conscious write out, maybe every, mistake or mishap that you think you've made, maybe everything that, you think you've done wrong with money, get all of that stuff out, because it's really important that you know how you think, act, and feel about money, right? Because if there's something from your past that is kind of lodged in your psyche about money, that is something that we need to overcome. That we need to get over that roadblock so that you can run a successful business, so that you can make smart decisions with your money going forward. And, most people don't start there, but I think it's really important. We learn our money personality, our money habits by the time we're age 7. So
wow.
Yeah, that's really young. So if you think about maybe what happened to you when you were a young child, maybe you grew up in a great situation, maybe you grew up in a not great situation, but that has all shaped how you handle money now. So, there's people that are always overspending, or people that are, they're so budget savvy, they won't ever spend money. There's a whole spectrum on there, and we all, fall somewhere in there. But if we understand what's happened to us in our past, and we understand how things have impacted us, it helps us to move forward and to make smart decisions going forward. And I think that's really important, to just spend some time there really thinking about those things, and thinking about how, you can get kind of a good positive feeling around those things. Some of us, especially women, might have been in relationships where there might have been, some sort of financial abuse, or some sort of, just real negativity when it comes to finance. And so it's important that we kind of assert our own self and go, you know what, we can do this, we can overcome everything. And to get past, kind of that shame and stress and regret that money often comes with. Another thing is, a lot of people will rob from, I call it robbing, from their 401k to pay for their startup. And I think most people don't understand the consequences that come with that. If, all of us are under 59 and a half, I can probably surely say that. And, when you take money from your 401k early, you have a 10% penalty, plus it counts as income. So you have to pay taxes on that. So that can end up being really, really costly to you. So I always want to exhaust, like, are there any other resources? Can we get a business loan? Can we get a 0% credit card? That's way better than taking money from our 401k. So just, really thinking through kind of your money decisions ahead of time and understanding the implications they have now and in the future.
Would you say, Elise, that along with the business loans, and this is just, a personal question, would you say along with those expenses to try to not take out any if possible, or like wait on equipment, or just exercise more patience in spending too?
Yeah, and understand, it takes money to make money. I mean, that is the unfortunate reality, but you can be really smart about what you're spending your money on. Just like you said, if look, this may take me 6 months before I, start getting a good client flow, maybe there are certain expenses you wait on, things like lead pages is great, right? But it's super expensive. And there's lots of other ways to get your business started without, paying that huge chunk of change right away. Maybe you can add that in. So I always like to tell people to have kind of these goals and rewards, right? So, okay, I get to 2 clients or a $5,000 revenue goal or whatever it is, then I can purchase X, Y, and Z, so you kind of build in these ladder steps for yourself and give yourself a little bit of a reward, a little bit of a goal, something to push towards, so that you're not spending all your money right off the bat, but you're working towards it. I think is really cool to do.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Setting goals. And then once you reach them, you can get it.
Yeah. I mean, there is, the thing about money is I can teach you every single strategy tip in the book. I can tell you about taxes. I can tell you about insurance. I can tell you about retirement. I can tell you about anything you want to know about finances. But there's just like working out, right? When we set New Year's resolutions, there is a self-control portion of money. And, you just have to decide for yourself that like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to try. I'm still going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try and be as smart with my decisions as possible and commit to it. And that's the only way this works, really.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that you made it like New Year's resolutions too, and losing weight. It does.
Losing weight and working out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Start off strong and then start to lag as time goes on. And like you said, accountability too. So do you suggest not only with hiring Outwork or working with professionals, but also people just to hold you accountable to your budget?
Find, some sort of business quote unquote partner, somebody who's like-minded, who, shares kind of your enthusiasm for your business and you for theirs, even get, it's so easy now with technology, get a group of like 4 women, that you can you're all in different business sectors and you can all, kind of vet out problems and say, hey, I'm thinking about this idea. What do you guys think? It's so important as a business owner that you don't get isolated and, also that you have somebody accountable for, just like you said, for money. Like, hey, I'm thinking about, spending this, like, is that a wise decision or can I think about this a little bit differently? You can even have people that you can leverage services, maybe they pay half and you pay half and you share, the product or the service or whatever it may be. The technology, there may be some things like that where you can really, cut your expenses down. But yeah, it's so critical to have, a team that is there and that can, you calendar it in and that can really hold you accountable. And also if you have that team and you're able to talk about money stuff, that's going to help you a ton because you're going to remove the stigma and the fear with money. And you're going to be able to just like dial in and, push through things. Like it's not going to be so many emotional decisions because you're able to talk about it with someone.
Yeah. And it's probably really freeing too when you open up that, because money is such a private thing that it's easy to like hide things. I know I'm not supposed to be spending money on that, but I'll fix that later. Or just to let things slide instead of, I know having Jake on board and looking over my shoulder with things, there's an extra layer of accountability there, which can be frustrating at times, but really helpful for the majority of
Yeah, I do a lot of work with couples and money, and it's really more just the psychological kind of coaching aspect around money. Because yeah, it's not easy, but the payoff is so worth it.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Are there any other precautions that we should? I know you mentioned too, spending money to make money.
Yeah. The emergency fund again. I always tell people, commit to saving money each month. Whether you can save $25 or $1,000, it doesn't matter. It's the habit. Get in the habit of building in savings and make that a fixed expense for you. So we spend so many time paying everybody else that we forget to pay ourselves. And it's really important, be the CEO of you, pay yourself first, put something towards your future. I know, especially when you're starting up, it's lean, you're trying to be as lean as possible, but it is also really important to start or to continue saving for your future. It might not be as aggressive as it was when you were working for a company, but it's something, and it's going to help you. You're going to be able to see a savings account balance start to grow, and all of those things give you confidence and motivation. So really, focus on saving, and we circling back kind of the personal versus business finances. It's really important that you have two separate budgets. Everybody tries to mush those together, and that's where things get really hairy, where you start to miss things, where you start to overspend. Really delineate the line. Again, like, think of yourself like you're, the CEO of like $1 billion company, right? And tell yourself that, okay? And it's your responsibility to run your personal budget and your business budget, right? And then your business budget then flows into your personal budget, but they're separate. Just like having, a separate business account and a separate business credit card. Those types of things just really help not only in your brain go, okay, I'm a business owner, but they help for taxes. They help for, I just all sorts of things. It's just really easy if you just separate it at the very beginning.
And it gets really hairy. The line between it.
Yes, absolutely. It does. Yeah. But, in order to figure out, how much revenue am I making, right? How much does my product and service actually cost? How much does it cost me to manufacture whatever I'm doing, right? You have to separate that out. You have to look at all of your expenses and figure out, okay, what is your actual, quote unquote, per unit cost? And again, you don't have to be manufacturing anything, but, what does it cost me to book a coaching client? Or what does it cost me to make this, downloadable book, or whatever it may be? Really understanding your pricing and your costs, which I know you really help people with as well. That's really critical in, running your business successfully and growing it.
Yeah, because like you said, all of these expenses add up. So things like or ConvertKit or tend to add up.
Yeah, we all think like, $29 here, $59 here, $129 here. And then, before we know it, we're like, oh my gosh, we're spending like, $1,000 a month on all this stuff. Like, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening, which I love that you say that, tracking it weekly, because then you start to see all of that.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, you have an offer for everyone who's, and I want to get to that before the Q&A. So do you want to tell everyone class?
Yeah, so I'm starting a subscription-based, as I'm just telling people, don't do subscriptions. I'm starting a subscription-based monthly plan called Money Like a Boss. And what it's going to be is every month there's going to be a short strategy tip-filled action masterclass in there, all sorts of worksheets, spreadsheets, checklists, and each month there's going to be, more resources kind of put in. So at the 15th of every month, you can go in there, log in, and there's going to be all sorts of amazing things that you can put in practice with your business. And already this month, we've launched this month, I've got a ton of things in this month, and it's already worth, if I was to price this out, it would be worth probably, $300 to $500 of value of stuff that I really want business owners to succeed. So what I'm offering for all of your listeners is, it's normally $12 a month. If you want to sign up, you get the first month free. You can go in there, check it out, see if you're going to get value from this. And then if you want to stay on, great. There is a bundle option as well, where I've bundled it with my budget breakthrough masterclass, which is a 30-day long class where I teach people how to save money, pay off debt, master their budget, all sorts of things in 30 days. And so I've bundled that all together, and you can get a year of the Money Like a Boss subscription plus that masterclass for $179. So it's quite a value. So if anybody's listening and you just want to sign up and check out a free month, go ahead, do it, get the resources. Again, there's like 3 or 4 different worksheets in there that you can download. And there's a startup checklist, all sorts of great things of value in there.
Thank you for doing that. I think also there's a little headphones. So if there's headphones on your end, or if you can mute the mic, I think it's better now. There it goes. Better?
Yeah, I'm not doing headphones, so.
Yeah, it's better now. We're good. It fixed. Just because I was talking about it, it fixed it. Okay.
Yay!
Awesome. I'll let you know if it comes back up. But we are going to jump into Q&A if you're ready for it. Are you good to go?
No,
Awesome.
I'm ready. Let's go.
We have 14 in here. Let's see how many we can get done before 4 o'clock. I hear the echo a little bit. I hope it's not bad on everybody else's end. So Lucy asks, would you mind sharing what accounting software you use or one you might recommend? I'm not ready to hire an accountant yet and need a better way to keep track of my business finances.
Yeah, like I said before, I use FreshBooks, and I've used a bunch of different accounting software. And this one I actually really love because, again, they have a mobile app so I can take pictures of receipts and auto categorize. And then literally, I can also print, I can send an invoice. There's all sorts of facets of FreshBooks that I can use. But I use it primarily to categorize my expenses. And then at tax time, I literally hit a button. It prints out a spreadsheet where it breaks down all the expenses for the year and all of the different categories. And it makes it so much easier. I mean, my CPA loves me. But if you don't use a CPA, you can just take it straight from that sheet and then, file your taxes however you do. But it's automatically going to categorize, what you're spending in those different categories.
That's so helpful. I use QuickBooks and it's similar. And I can just add my accountant right into my account. And it makes it so much easier to make time.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to try a couple different ones. Somebody likes a different aspect about each one of them. So, feel free to test out a few different ones.
Awesome. Great. All right. I hope that was helpful, Lucy. Okay. Mary Jo asks, how much should you pay yourself when you're getting started? Ideally, you want to keep it all within the business so you can pay for the building costs of starting a company. However, when you also need to bring in income, that's not always an option. Good question.
Yeah, again, that's one of those unfortunate ones where I'm going to say it depends. So without really knowing what's going on with your finances, it's really hard to say, exactly, it should be 5% or 10% or $5,000 a month or whatever it may be. So that would take some digging down. But the simple answer is really, if you find out what it just basically takes you to live without any of the extras, that will give you a good feel of how much income you need just to cover those things. And then that's really your goal that you're shooting for.
That's great advice. Thank you. I hope that's helpful, Mary Jo. All right. Katie asks, how much money should you set aside for taxes? Also, is paying quarterly something that's advised? And lastly, would you recommend investing in a personal accountant? So first, How much money you set aside for taxes?
I always suggest somewhere between 15 to 20%. When you're starting out, 15% works. If you start to really get into, you get $100,000 plus each year, you might want to up that a little bit to 20%, just so you're not shocked when, it comes to tax time. With taxes, the more you can set aside, the better. If you don't need to use all of that amount, even better. But usually 15 to 20% is kind of the sweet spot there. As far as quarterly taxes, yes, once you start making a profit, you are going to want to file quarterly taxes. And, if you don't file them and you end up owing money, you usually have to pay a small amount of interest on the money that you owe. It's not a ton of money. I would say if you're in your first year or so, don't panic about doing quarterly taxes. You're not going to get, the tax man is not going to come knocking on your door. So don't panic about that. But technically speaking, yes, you should be filing quarterly taxes. And that just helps you. That helps you so that, come April 15th, you don't suddenly owe like $30,000 in taxes and you don't have the money. And that's really what you're trying to avoid. As far as a CPA, absolutely. I know it costs money to hire a CPA, but look, if you find a great CPA, and this is what you need to do, you need to ask the CPA how many business clients they have, right? Because this is important, because a CPA that understands startups, understands small businesses, also understands write-offs really well. And you need somebody who's going to be able to direct you and help you find the different things that you're looking for as far as write-offs and what you can and can't get away with.
Yeah. Some people in the comments are saying some people told them 35 to 40%. I know I try to do it. 30. I'm really paranoid.
Yeah, and that's where a CPA really comes in handy, because they can really look. If I was actually looking in somebody's finances, actually looking at their income and revenue, you can dial that number in pretty precisely for someone. So it just kind of depends. I mean, I live in California and we pay a ton of money in taxes. And I usually do pretty well with paying about 20% in quarterly taxes. But again, if you're saving 30%, if you're saving 40%, you're going to be even better off. So, there's nothing wrong with that.
And then the rest can go into that savings account like we talked about, or
exactly.
Something else. But great question. Okay, Rachel says, when should business banking account? Sorry, it's really bad. Wonder if they're okay, we'll work with it. If you're bringing in a salary at a full-time job, but trying to grow your part-time business, how much do you suggest pulling from your full-time salary and grow your part-time business?
Let me see. You're cutting out a little bit in that question. Am I cutting out? Do you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. I think there's an echo. I don't know if it's the mic. I'm gonna go grab my headphones really quick. But while I go grab them, when did you get a business banking account?
Yeah, so business banking account. Look, if you can get an account when you start out, when you start your business, that's great. If you're starting from scratch. But if wherever you are in your business, you can always go get a business banking account. I always say start with the bank that you're currently at, that you have your personal account at. That's just going to be easiest. And, it's super simple to set up a business account. So there's nothing, usually you'll need what's called a DBA, a doing business as. They're going to need some proof that you're kind of actually legitimately running this business. Or if you've set up a corporation or whatever it may be, you could show proof of that as well. But you can really set up a business banking account at any point in time. And there's really no, perfect time. But again, this is just a step. This isn't something necessarily that you have to do, but it's an important step. Let's say you were ever audited by the IRS. It makes it easy to just say, look, this is the account I run my expenses in and out of, and it's clean, and I can find what I need to there. So it makes your life easier is all it does.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, this is weird with the headphones in and the mic. I think there is still an echo. I might invite you back if that's okay, Shannah.
Sure, absolutely.
Just 1 second. Thank you guys for bearing with me on that. I'm going to go ahead and invite Shannah back in, and hopefully the echo will have gone away by then. One moment. Let me find her again. All right. We'll try this again. And I see that Katie said that you have a second. There we go. So maybe lowering the volume. I'm sorry. I don't know why that's happening. Okay. Let's try this again. Sorry for the sound. I don't know. So another one is currently bringing your salary at a full-time job for your part-time business. How much do you suggest pulling part-time?
How much do I suggest pulling from your part-time salary?
Yes, for your business if you're working full-time. I know that's a hard one.
Yeah, it's such a hard question to answer. I wish there was like a real straight line answer to that. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but again, it just kind of goes back to, what are the expenses that you're going to need to spend to get your business up and running or to launch your first product or whatever it may be? What do those numbers look like? And, then if you can figure that out, then you have kind of the roadmap for how much money you need to actually spend for those, expenses. And I think if you think about things that way, it's going to make it a little bit easier. But there really isn't a set number as far as percentage or, how much you should spend. It just totally depends on, your business model, your pricing, and then what sort of expenses are attached to that. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely, that's a great answer. And how much time should you expect to give yourself to build this up? I guess that was infinite.
Yeah, that's tough. Some people can launch, on a Friday, and on Monday they're making, income already. For some people, it takes a while to build kind of your expert status, and it might take 6 months before, you get a real good stream of income in. And for some people, you might need to try a couple things. Maybe you try a coaching program and maybe that doesn't really work, but then maybe you go to subscription or an ebook or whatever it may be, and suddenly, your sales jettison. So, it's just going to be about trying a lot of different things and trying to see what resonates, with your audience, which is why I think, what you do is so great, really helping people like hone their niche and hone all of these things so that, you can be as profitable as possible, from the get-go.
Yeah. Great answer. Do we have time to answer one more? Yeah, let's do one more. If you're up for it, Shannah.
Sure.
Let's see. This is a good one. Ashley asks, I didn't work full-time before I started my business. I didn't have enough income to give up, but I also had no transfer funds to use for startup expenses. So any money I make goes to paying. What should I start paying?
Let me see. Let me just read the question again. Yeah, this is a tough one. With debt, I really always suggest that there's a balance between paying off debt and paying yourself. Having zero debt is awesome. Look, I'm not going to deny that is an incredible money goal. But the problem then is when you have zero debt, you may have also run out of money, or your savings might be depleted. So I always suggest, try to find a balance. Maybe it's a 50-50 balance. Half of the money goes towards paying off your debt each month. And yeah, maybe it's going to be a slower, debt payoff process, but then half of the money is going to pay yourself. And I think as a business owner, even if you can take just a small amount of salary, it really helps your mindset. It helps you really kind of affirm like, okay, I am this business person. I am running this business. I am making money. And I think all of those things are really important. But I really like to advise people, strike a balance between the two so that, you're kind of marching or you're tackling both money goals at the same time.
That's a great, paying yourself. You're right. It gives you another mindset. So I love it.
Exactly.
All right, we are at the end of the hour already. Thank you so much. On sharing so much of your wisdom. I know I took so much away from imagine that everyone. Thank you so much. And just one more everyone. Money like click that link right here at the bottom. and don't miss out on that. Thank you, Shannah. Where can people reach you if they want to follow along?
Absolutely. So my website is yourmillennialmoney.com. I also run a podcast called Millennial Money on iTunes. So you can go there. There's a ton of episodes. I do a ton of entrepreneur episodes you can listen to every week. And on the website, there's a contact link. You can shoot me a message, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I would love for all of you to join in on the fun and help you all just be super successful with your business and also with your finances.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shannah. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon. I love that, and I know. But thank you, Shannah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We will not have an Ellechat next week, but the following week, we're going to be talking about 11 ways to use your affiliate links. So the lady who is joining me, Justine Gray, has a lot of experience with affiliate links. In fact, we talked about FreshBooks today, and she helped build their affiliate program. So she is a pro. I'm really excited to have her on. If you click my profile, and I think it might be at the top of the page for you, you can go ahead and register for that webinar, and you can also follow along with my Crowdcast account so that anytime a new Ellechat pops up, you can go ahead and register for it and follow along. Thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next Ellechat. See you later.